Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. That's a wonderful greeting. Sounds a little weak this year, though. We need something stronger. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes. We have to enter into this new year strong, don't we? We have to. It has to be not just a happy new year. It has to be a rewarding, dynamic, positive, doesn't it?
Yes.
So let's enter into the new year with this attitude, and I think we'll find that it empowers our spiritual living, and that's something that we all need. So, Happy New Year. And this morning in our inspirational presentation, we are going to follow the course of our journey in life, seeking happiness, and how our journey leads us to an inner quest for greater and greater happiness. And through this quest, we discover a spiritual path, a guru, Kriya Yoga, that brings us ultimate fulfillment. So let us begin with a short meditation together. Let us close our eyes. Lift our gaze to the point between the eyebrows. Feel stillness within. Feel the loving energy of our group meditating together. Feel it supporting you. Let us take a moment and send our love to all of our family, giving thanks for the season of the holidays and the friendship that we have shared. In the ancient scriptures of India, part of the scripture is called the Purana. And the Purana is a collection of rather exotic tales and legends involving activities of heaven and earth. Part of the Purana is a collection of stories about a fanciful character called Narada Muni. And Narada is a realized sage. He's a sannyas, depicted as a young man. And he has long hair. He walks everywhere in a robe with a long-necked musical instrument, the veena. And everywhere he goes, he's much beloved because he's so devotional. And he sits in a village or in a town square, and he plays devotional chants on his veena, and a crowd gathers around, and they are praising the Lord. Narada also, interestingly, has access to the higher astral realms where the gods dwell. And so the stories involve a kind of a unique interaction between heaven and earth. He's always wandering around talking to people on earth, and he's wandering through the heavens talking to the gods and goddesses. In a version of one particular story that I like, Narada is walking with his veena, and he's walking through the earth in India, and he's looking at the people, and he's troubled by how much they are suffering. And he thinks, the people of the world, they have no idea of the Lord and all the greatness and glory of God, and they are struggling so hard, and they are getting so little happiness. This isn't a right situation. And so in his next swing, coming down or up around heavenly territories, he pays a visit to Lord in the form of Vishnu, the sustainer of all creation. He gets an audience with Vishnu, and he says, "Oh, Lord, I've come with a special request. You are an ocean of love, and you're an ocean of grace and glory, and you remain a secret to all of the people on the earth. They are struggling, Lord. They don't know the kind of happiness that you can give. Why don't you reveal yourself to your children? Why remain a hidden secret?" And according to the story, Vishnu ponders this and smiles and says, "Very well, Narada. Why don't you go down to earth and ask my people, what are they desiring?" So the Lord is asking for a survey. And Narada says, "Oh, wonderful, that's a good idea." And he walks away very happy, and he thinks, "Oh, this is going to be easy. Everybody wants to be with God." And so he goes back down to earth, and he's walking along a forested path. He comes near a city, and he approaches a young couple. And the young couple are walking to market with their baskets to shop. And he approaches them and he said, "Excuse me, I've come from a beautiful audience with the Lord, and he has a request. He would like to know what it is, most of all, that you are desiring, and he wants to grant your wish." And the couple, honoring and respecting the sannyas before them, they say, "Oh, Swamiji, we would really love to have a child. We would like to have a child, and oh, by the way, we would like to have a home that could accommodate a family. That's what we are desiring." And Narada says, "Very well, I will tell the Lord." And he walks away, and he's somewhat surprised and a little disappointed. He's thinking, well, that's a noble desire, but there was no mention of the Lord. And he walks into the village, and he sees a young man selling fruit by the side of the road. And he comes up to the young man, and he says, "I'm not here to buy your fruit, but I have a question for you. The good Lord wants to know what it is that you are most desiring in life, and he wants to grant your wish." And the young man thought for a minute. He said, "Well, I'm kind of tired of picking and selling fruit. So what I would like is I would like a position in the king's court." And Narada said, "Are you sure that's what you desire most?" And he says, "Yes, that's what I want. Please tell the Lord." And so Narada is a little bit, disappointed and disillusioned, and he goes on and he finds a woman standing by her front gate, and he walks up to her and he says the same thing, gives the invitation, and she looks him in the eye, and she said, "Oh, the Lord is so great and so good. Well, I've lost my husband. Maybe the good Lord can give him back." Narada walks away and he realizes, people of the earth, they are desiring earthly things. He conducts a few more interviews, and then back in heaven, he approaches Lord Vishnu again, and the Lord says, Narada, what is the results of your conversation with my people?" And Narada hesitantly tells him the truth about all the things that the people want. And the Lord humbly says, "Did anyone ask to enjoy my love and my friendship and my presence?" "No, I'm sorry, Lord. Nobody made that request." And then the Lord pauses and delivers the finish line. "Well, Narada, then why should I give my people something they do not want?" And so this illustrates the journey that we are all on. Because as human beings, we are all on a long journey. The ancient scriptures and our Guru Paramahansa Yogananda says that our journey is all about an evolution of happiness. We are all seeking happiness in one way or another. And all of the things that we desire in life, that is the foundation, motive of all desire, is to achieve happiness for ourselves and for others too. And our journey goes on and we learn. Certain things bring happiness, certain things do not. We also learn that happiness that is dependent upon changing conditions of this world also changes. And so the happiness lasts for a little while, and then it seems to expire. And we have to refresh. So we find ourselves seeking again and again. Some efforts are successful, some end in failure, even with good intentions. And a noble desire to share happiness with others doesn't always bear good fruit. And so the journey goes on, and gradually we learn that happiness dependent on external conditions has limitations. And so the scriptures say that we pass through many life experiences this way. And gradually our experience is an evolution of seeking happiness. We gradually learn these lessons. And our journey gradually goes on until we begin to realize there needs to be another source of happiness. And we begin to advance our search. We start to ask deeper questions about ourselves, about our life, about our purpose of life. I still remember a conversation with a man who told me that when he was a little boy, he said, I think I was born troubled by the impossible questions of life. He said, I would go to my father and I would say, Dad, where did I come from before I was born? Dad, where am I going after I die? Daddy, why am I here? What is the reason that I'm here in this life? He said I would go and I would pester my father, and he would always change the subject. He would always avoid me, not wanting to have these kinds of questions, but he said they were constantly troubling me, and I really wanted to know answers. He said, I really made a pest of myself. He said, finally, my dad told me, he said, son, it's pointless to ask questions that have no answers. And so he said, after that, I just shut up. And I didn't ask him any more questions. And he said, I tried to dismiss these questions from my mind, but they wouldn't go away. And he said, I went on, I became an adult, and these questions still persisted. And he said, it wasn't until I started reading the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda that I began to have those questions answered. And he told me I was crying as I was reading, and I was realizing there are answers to these questions. And there are ways to discover and experience more. It's something that I had given up hope on, but I still had a lingering desire to achieve. And so this is our story, isn't it? It's our story. Our journey for happiness. It leads us to a quest. It leads us to a conscious quest. A search for knowledge that is beyond human knowledge. Something that informs us of who we are, really. A satisfying definition of myself, my life, my purpose, where I've come from, where I'm going. We have this desire to be able to understand something deeper about ourselves. We sense it. It's not something we've ever been told or taught, and yet there's an ancient certainty that we are more than we think we are. We want more than knowledge, though, because ultimately we are seeking happiness, and happiness is an experience. And so there is a craving of the mind and a yearning of the heart to be able to experience more than we have experienced. We want a happiness that is greater than what we have experienced before. We want something sustainable. We want something dynamic and expanding. We want something that doesn't expire on us, and something that doesn't create more drama in our family and in our world. So this is what happens with our journey. It evolves seeking happiness until it becomes a conscious quest. A quest for a higher happiness. And this quest takes us within. So we gradually discover that happiness around us does not completely fulfill us, and we begin seeking within. And if we look at the origins of all religious movements throughout history, we find that the originating prophet, it started with his quest or her quest. There is a seeking there. There is a yearning to discover. And then there is a revelation, which is the result of that quest. Jesus was speaking to the multitudes in the Sermon on the Mount. And in Matthew 7, Jesus says, "Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be opened." Now that's familiar to many of you, but isn't it profound in this context? Jesus is talking about the quest. And he's urging his disciples, seek, knock, discover, ask, and don't stop until you are satisfied until you find. And Paramahansa Yogananda, in his commentary on this particular passage, he says, by the devotee's continuous knocking with prayerful urgency at the gate of silence leading to God, it shall be opened unto him, and his consciousness will enter into the heavenly region of blissful God communion. Every devotee who with unrelenting zeal asks for God realization receives that enlightenment without fail. So this is the story of Jesus. This is the story of Buddha meditating under the holy peepal tree. It is the story of Muhammad meditating in the caves near Medina. It is the story of all great sages and the prophets who are at the source of all religious movements. There is this quest, and there is this teaching that comes out to pursue the quest. So this individual and personal quest is going on all around us today. Some of you sitting here, maybe for the first time, you've been seeking, you've been yearning. You may not know exactly what for, and yet there's something that, is incomplete in your life, and you have a feeling that you might find it within you. You've been on a long journey striving for happiness, and now it has become intentional. And you are starting to think, maybe the happiness is right within me. We've been open at the lake for the past 2 years, since July 2020, year and a half. Almost 50,000 people have come during the pandemic. And there have been a lot of people on a quest. It's very interesting. It brings the conditions of life the past year and a half have brought this out. People have said, I had no time before, but now I have no time for anything else. And so I've been training myself to recognize people on a quest. Now, it's not all 50,000, but it is a percentage. Some people come just to, find a little bit of peace and comfort, a little bit of solace. But some people are actually questing. So I'll find myself down in the Court of Religions on a weekday, and I might be talking with staff or some devotees that I know, and suddenly I feel someone hovering nearby. I can feel it. And I find myself looking around, and I might see a woman just looking out at the lake silently. I might see a man sitting by himself on a nearby bench watching me. And so I break away from the conversation, and I walk over, and I just introduce myself and say, are you enjoying your visit? Oh, yes. Do you have time for a question? Do I have time for a question? I know what the questions are. I'm ready for them. I've had those same questions myself. And so then I can take a few minutes and I can help a person in their quest. Isn't this cool? This is what it's all about in life. It's an evolution of discovering happiness, and gradually becomes intentional, and the journey becomes a quest, and the answers then are answered. I talked with a woman after a Sunday service. It was in November. And she came out and she said, Brother, I really enjoyed, this was my first time at your temple. She said, I want you to know that over the past year, I've been visiting holy sites. I've been all over. I've used my COVID time to seek holy sites, and I've been to famous churches, temples, synagogues. I have been to ancient holy sites. I felt wonderful feelings, but it hasn't been completely fulfilling, and I haven't known why. Today, I came to this temple, and when I walked in, it had that familiar holy feeling. When I sat down and the minister guided me into meditation, she said, suddenly I realized the sacred space I'm seeking is within me. She said, I just want you to know that this has been a very important day for me, and I'm discovering something new for the first time. Doesn't this describe it perfectly? Our quest for happiness. We're in the habit of seeking it outwardly. And sometimes we don't even give up, mainly because of habit, but also because we think that that's the way that we should be. And yet, it's not until we start seeking intentionally within that we begin to discover a more refined and sustainable form of happiness. So this quest continues, and it becomes an intentional pursuit and grows in its intensity. And it produces within us what I like to say is a soul call. We all go through this. This is our story. It produces a soul call. And a soul call really has no words. It's not a formal prayer. It's simply an energetic yearning of the heart. And it's a yearning for connection. A yearning for a deep, profound connection, for a sacred connection that brings some form of elevated happiness and fulfillment. And when we start to feel this energy forming, that's a magnetic force, and it attracts. And Paramahansa Yogananda teaches about this, and he says that it attracts the answer of God. That is the universe then. Cosmic consciousness responds, and then sends an enlightened teacher, a spiritual path, a technique like Kriya Yoga that will help us to fulfill the yearning of our heart. And so the journey becomes the quest, and then the quest becomes the path. And the path is presented and mapped out by the enlightened teacher, the Guru, the one who has gone before and knows the inner source and can help to guide us there. So this is our story, and this is one reason why the autobiography of a yogi remains popular after 75 years of publication. This is a story of a quest, and it's universal. We all experience it. So Self-Realization Fellowship is really more than a church. It's a spiritual path. It's a spiritual path. And it is Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma in India is known as the eternal religion. The eternal religion is the result of the quest. It is the seeking and the finding of the student that results in a spiritual path. And the whole purpose of Sanatana Dharma and Self-Realization Fellowship is to fulfill the quest. And so families ask us to baptize their children into the church. And I always tell them, no, this is not how we do it. You don't become baptized to join this church. This church is the result of a quest. And so we give a blessing from God and the masters to the children. But then they must go on their own search, and they must discover for themselves. And then that becomes the baptism in spirit when they find what they are seeking. So Self-Realization Fellowship is a modern dispensation of an ancient Sanatana Dharma. It is called Raja Yoga, the Royal Yoga. And the Royal Yoga is a blend. It is a combination of forces that help to propel us forward on our journey. The mighty Ganges River in India flows out of the Himalayan mountains. It flows down through the steep canyons and out onto the plains of India. It flows almost half of the Indian continent. It joins with the Jamuna River at Allahabad. And then it continues to flow. And the Brahmaputra River joins at Sundarban, where is the largest delta in the world. And then the Ganges flows into the Bay of Bengal. Now, if you're a trekker and you want an adventure, you can trace the Ganges River to the source, up in the Himalayan mountains to the Gangotri Glacier. And that's a beautiful pilgrimage to make. And there at the source at the glacier where the river starts is a holy place for thousands of years. But there is an interesting analogy here. It's a very mystical analogy because there is within each one of us a river of life force that is sourced secretly at the medulla oblongata, the top of the head, the back of the head. And the life force flows in there, and it descends in a flowing current like a river down the spine, through the chakras, and out through the chakras to our senses. And it is this downward flow of life force that takes our consciousness into the senses and causes us to experience this world, the light of this world, the sounds of this world, the sensual experiences of this world, and it causes us to identify with them. I am the body. I am the body that has this sensual experience. And we forget that we are actually, in essence, cosmic spirit. And we can, through the help of a guru and scientific meditation techniques, to redirect that descending life force back up its course, following the spine back up through the chakras, up to its source, and then expand into omnipresent consciousness. This is the science of Kriya Yoga. Paramahansa Yogananda describes it in a beautiful quotation. It's just a little bit long, but I've never read anything quite as potent as what he expresses here. He tells the story of our life force. He says, ascension follows in reverse the exact course of descension. In man, that course is the inner highway to the infinite, the only route to divine union for followers of all religions in all ages. By whatever bypath of beliefs or practices a being reaches that singular highway, the final ascension from body consciousness to spirit is the same for everyone. The withdrawal of life and consciousness from the senses upward through the gates of light in the subtle cerebral spinal centers, dissolving the consciousness of matter into life force into mind, mind into soul, and soul into spirit. The method of ascension is Raja Yoga, the eternal science that has been integral in creation from its inception. That's a beautiful description, isn't it? Very mystical, and yet very clear. And so you are all here today. We are all here together because we've finished with our aimless journey. There's no more wandering for us. There's no more dependency upon outer conditions for our happiness. We have begun a quest. And many of us have chosen a path. And this is the path that we follow to inner happiness and bliss. So Raja Yoga is a balanced blend. It brings scientific meditation. Kriya Yoga is a method of pranayama, working with life force to redirect that descending life force into the senses back to its source and to expand matter into energy, energy into consciousness, and consciousness into spirit. Raja Yoga is also a sadhana. The sadhana is a spiritual lifestyle that supports communion. And so the combination between daily meditation and spiritual living, spiritual lifestyle, produces a dynamic force that helps us to fulfill our quest. We begin to feel that growth of happiness within us. And it is a happiness that has a new energy. It is not a weak happiness that comes and goes with our moods. It is a happiness that has a sustaining power that we learn to depend on and trust. And so this is the fulfillment of the quest. When we look around us now and we see the light of the day, we see the light of the sanctuary, we see the light of the beautiful outdoors today, this is the life energy that is flowing from the chakras out to the senses, letting us behold the light of this world. And yet there is a greater light. There is another divine light that never grows dim, that never grows dark. If you close your eyes right now, close your eyes, and you see darkness. You close the eyes, the eyelids shut, they cover the physical eyes. The rays that flow out into the world to see worldly light now are covered. You see only darkness with your eyes closed. But now, with your eyes closed, if you direct your mind upward, you lift the mind upward with your willpower, direct your consciousness toward the center point between your eyebrows. You will feel now that the gaze of the closed eyes is also lifting, following the direction of the mind. Now hold your lifted eyes steady. Hold your concentration steady at that single point between your eyebrows. Now, if you concentrate there with steadiness long enough, with practice, you will begin to see a light there. The light will emerge out of the darkness. It is the same for everyone. It will come first as a rotating ball of light, golden light, and you will see it kind of pulsating right there in front of you as you gaze. And as you continue to gaze with steadfastness and concentration, there will come a dark spot at the center of that ball of light. As you continue to concentrate at the center of that ball of light, the dark center will turn blue. So there will be a golden ring with a dark blue field. And as you concentrate further, at the very center will emerge a bright white light, a five-pointed star. So the golden ring, the blue field, the white star, this is the Kutastha Chaitanya. This is the divine light within. And it is the beginning of the fulfillment of our quest. Open your eyes. Jesus said, "And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not." And Guruji says this is what Jesus was talking about. That when we close our eyes, we see nothing but darkness, yet there is light there. But the darkness of the mind cannot comprehend it. It's only when we learn to meditate that, with the help of a guru, we can begin to see that light and to merge with that light. Paramahansaji says very beautifully, says to all of us, he says, "Why not inquire behind the darkness when you close your eyes? That is the place to explore. Vast lights and cosmic forces are moving there." I love these kinds of cool promises. So where else would we learn that if we close our eyes, we don't have to behold only darkness? We have a testimony of an enlightened teacher who's saying, no, if you do this and this, then you will begin to see this divine light within yourself. And it connects with the mysteries and the revelations of all prophets. And so this is the mystical truth brought by Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Bhagavad Gita, the scripture says, "Unattracted to the sensory world, the yogi experiences the ever-new joy inherent in the self. Engaged in divine union of the soul with spirit, he attains bliss indestructible." And Guruji comments, "Detaching his attention from the outer world into his true inner self, the yogi perceives the ever-existing, ever-conscious, ever new joy of the soul. When the self is fully established in union with Spirit, his ever new joy becomes immutable. So is this message clear? It's very mystical, and yet I hope you can see how your journey has led to a quest, and how the quest has led to a path, and how the path opens new doors of experience that we can have. And as we continue to pursue our quest for greater and greater happiness within, we are rewarded by those treasures. And the way is always advanced by the Satguru, the one who guides and leads the way. And gradually we learn through our own experience to trust and know that the Guru has been there and is guiding us truly. And then that is when our life becomes fulfilled. We find a new happiness growing within, a new strength. So we have all been on this long journey. This is all our story. And we did not know at first where we were coming from, where we were going, why we were here. But now, if you're listening to my words this morning, your journey has become a quest. And if you're here for the first time, I would ask you, are you ready for your quest to become a path? And this is only a question that you yourself can answer, because this is your happiness that you're seeking. And if you feel that there's truth here, if something resonates within your heart and you say, I think this is something that I want, I think it's something I can trust, then take future steps. Paramahansa Yogananda designed the Self-Realization Fellowship lessons to fulfill the quest. So often, all the time, people who are taking this study course, this metaphysical study course, they say, every new chapter is answering questions that I have and fulfilling needs that I didn't even know I had. And so this is the way that the path unfolds before us, guided by the Satguru. And it's my testimony that my dreams of youth have been far exceeded. I was almost lost in the hope that any of my dreams would come true. And then the Guru came and said, no, you're not dreaming enough. Your goals are too low. Your sights are too near. You need to think big. You need to go further. You need to pursue higher. And so this is the role of the Guru, is to give us strength and encouragement so that we might go farther than we would normally go on our own. And in this we find that the Guru becomes a divine friend, always there to give love and support and encourage us on the path forward. And at every turn, there are new questions and there are new answers. I like to see my path as a journey that goes around a mountain, and it's a spiral, always going up. And I'm not at the peak yet, but every time I stop and take in the view, it's more expansive, it's more beautiful, it's more panoramic. And I think we can see our path this way. We always keep our eyes toward the goal, and yet we can enjoy the panorama as we climb. And this is the type of life that I cherish. Paramahansaji says to all of us, learn how to cultivate the consciousness of spirit. That is why you were born a human being. You were created under the evolutionary law that you might exercise your divine powers to find God. Mankind is engaged in an eternal quest for that something else he hopes will bring him happiness, complete and unending. For those individual souls who have sought and found God, the search is over. He is that something else. So let us have a short meditation. With your eyes closed, lift your mind and your eyes, centering at the point between your eyebrows. Absorb your consciousness at that single point. Feel stillness within your mind and peace within your heart. Now let us send our loving peace out into a troubled world. Feel your peace as a dynamic healing energy, and feel within you a desire to share. Our loving peace, guided by God, can touch troubled hearts all around the world. Let us send our love out to the world as we chant Om together. So let us pray together. O beloved God, beneath the wave of my consciousness is your ocean of cosmic consciousness. Behind the ripples of my mind is the supporting sea of thine omnipresence. Om, peace, Amen.